It has been over a month and a half since the Las Vegas shooting, and there seems to be more questions now than there were the night the shooting took place. And where are the government and the media? Silent. We're not going to stop asking questions. We know that Stephen Paddock wired over $100,000 to the Philippines a week before the shooting. We know that Paddock took 20 cruises to Europe and the Middle East.
Sources telling CNN the gunman took 20 cruises, many of them to foreign ports in Europe and the Middle East.
We know that ISIS took responsibility for the Las Vegas massacre, and that the FBI quickly shot down the idea of any connections between Paddock and ISIS, even though they still can't give us a motive a month and a half later.
As this event unfolds, we have determined to this point no connection with an international terrorist group.
Is the government quiet on motive because Paddock was a government contractor? That's right, he once worked for the predecessor of LockHeed Martin. Yeah, LockHeed Martin, the military defense contractor. I'm not saying he was government, but if the government doesn't give us any answers, we're going to ask questions and draw conclusions based on the information that's available. And the government narrative has been inconsistent at best. The government told us that Paddock checked into the Mandalay Bay on September 28th. But private investigator Laura Loomer was able to prove that Paddock checked into the Mandalay Bay on September 25th. These are basic facts, so we're going to question the government on the larger facts, like did Paddock commit suicide? Especially when an officer fired a shot in Paddock's suite. I'm not saying that means Paddock wasn't already dead, but I am saying that inconsistencies make us question everything, especially when we're getting nothing from the government or the mainstream media. Inconsistencies like we see in the report that follows.
Tonight, ABC News has learned exclusively that the hard drive is missing from the laptop computer found in Stephen Paddock's sniper's lair at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. Some authorities suspect that Paddock destroyed or intentionally hid the hard drive to keep law enforcement from information that may have told them why he killed 58 people and wounded hundreds more.
He would want to erase his digital history so nobody could ever figure out how and why he did what he did.
And ABC News has also learned that Paddock bought software to erase his hard drive. More evidence of his meticulous planning.
So he either brought his laptop with him with no hard drive, or brought his laptop and hid the hard drive during the shooting, even though he bought software to erase what was on the hard drive. Not to mention, the same government that would be telling me he hid the hard drive is the government that told me they found the passports of the 9/11 hijackers a few blocks away from 9/11 after 2 buildings fell on them. Not to mention the fires. Sorry, but we can't just take your word for it, especially when the entire narrative around the Las Vegas shooting is filled with inconsistencies. Inconsistencies like when key witness Jesus Campos arrived on the scene. The same key witness that inexplicably disappeared moments before 5 scheduled interviews with mainstream media news outlets. It turns out he had suddenly left the country just days after being shot in the leg. I wonder who paid for him to leave the country. And when he finally returned to America, the only journalist who got access to him is the hard-hitting Ellen DeGeneres. He did an interview with Dory from Finding Nemo.
Jesus, you're a fan of the Oakland Raiders, and Shutterfly is going to give you season tickets when the team goes to Las Vegas. You're going to be able to see them. Also, we know it's really important for you to that everyone is recognized. So Shutterfly cares about supporting communities, so it's going to make a donation of $25,000 in your name to the GoFundMe page that's dedicated to helping victims.
This was one of the deadliest shootings in American history. The victims deserve to have real journalists asking tough questions. And speaking of real journalists asking tough questions, Laura Loomer, the reporter who exposed that the FBI lied about when Paddock checked into Mandalay Bay, was barred from attending Las Vegas shooting press conferences. And YouTube altered its algorithms to prevent people from seeing conspiracy videos on the Las Vegas shooting. And what is a conspiracy theory? Anything the government and the mainstream media says is not true. And of course, history has shown us that the government and the media are so honest. And then there's the reports from the ground that contradict the official story.
They kept coming. That's the thing. It wasn't that, okay, let's all leave and now it's okay. No. We all started running and they came in. That's why there's no humanly possible way that guy, that was the only shooter.
And then there's the testimony of people like Navy SEAL sniper Craig Saywer.
I feel confident that we're hearing more than one shoot.
Of course, it should be easy to determine if Paddock did or did not have physical help from a second person. Vegas is one of the most heavily surveilled areas in the United States. There are cameras literally everywhere. But shocker, the government hasn't released any videotapes from the Mandalay Bay Casino. How did a 64-year-old man carry 25 guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition up 32 floors of a Vegas casino by himself? And how did this not raise any red flags? Look, I'm not telling you I know what happened in Las Vegas on October 1st, 2017. I know that ISIS took responsibility for the attack and that Paddock had a history of traveling to the Middle East. That he wired $100,000 to the Philippines 1 week before the shooting. I know that Paddock worked for the company that preceded LockHeed Martin. I know that eyewitnesses on the ground claim there were multiple shooters and that former Navy SEAL sniper and ballistic expert Craig Saywer also believes there were multiple shooters. I know that the American government has a long history of lying to the American people. The Gulf of Tonkin incident never occurred, but it got America into Vietnam. The babies in incubators incident was a lie that got America into the Gulf War. And the American government has been caught funding the very terrorist organizations it claims to be fighting against. The government has lacked transparency in the Las Vegas shooting aftermath, and it is up to us, the American people, to hold the government accountable. Join the after discussion and gain exclusive access at www.patreon.com/FFRnews.